Hi, it's Ipie. Have you ever thought about the impermanence of your existence? Well, I sure have. Well, the good thing is that there's a game that seems to put all those thoughts into
video game format.
For those uninitiated, allow me to give you a brief history lesson. Flashback to June 24th, 2004. While everyone was still mourning the loss of friends, the newborn gamer babies were playing their licensed SpongeBob and Spider-Man plug-and-plays. But little did they know that the very next day, a game would be released. A game so revolutionary it would change the course of the internet gaming sphere that they weren't probably a part of yet. This game was none other than Uninitiated. It's highly possible that you've never even heard of this game. It's a little bit niche, and I didn't even hear about it until relatively recently, but it really was revolutionary. It's a simple game made in RPG Maker 2003, but it wasn't really an RPG. All you did was wander around weird dreamscapes. It's a strange game, so strange that I'm too afraid to play it, but it would kick off a whole new genre of RPG Maker games. Games purely focused on puzzle solving and exploration, usually released for free by independent creators and artists that made it in, you guessed it, RPG Maker. There are plenty of games to talk about that all have their own claim to fame and each with their own special premise and twist on the formula, but the one that I'm talking about today had a particularly unique idea in mind. Initially created in RPG Maker 2003 and released in 2014, OneShot was widely talked about among fans inside and outside the RPG Maker game fanbase. Just looking at the gameplay alone, it might seem like the standard fare, but it's all in the premise for this game. As the title implies, you need to beat the game in one shot, so do not miss your chance to blow. Sorry. But it's not just one playthrough and you're done. If you so much as close the game, you kill Nico, the playable character. That mixed with the meta aspects to the story, it was a huge hit. Now, I didn't actually end up playing this initial version of the game despite the fact that it's free. Frankly, I'm too anxious to. I actually put the 2016 release where you don't murder an innocent child every time you close the game to take a piss. So that's the version I'm most familiar with, and the one that I recommend you play as well. In fact, you should stop listening to me and play it right now. It's on Steam and itch and it's only $10. It only takes like 4 hours to beat, so you can probably make it back here by tomorrow, or whatever. I'm being serious, this game is a once-in-a-lifetime kind of thing, and you need to play it relatively blind yourself to fully experience it. I don't want to be the guy who ruins its surprises. At least put the free one, it has the same structure as far as I know. Alright, I'm going to assume that you played the game at this point. You better not be lying to me. So OneShot follows this cute little cat-human looking thing named Nico, who is not actually a cat person. Frankly, that's a ridiculous notion. Cats walk on 4 legs, you dummy. They wake up in a strange house in a land that they don't recognize, and are quickly told that they're destined to save the world by returning a suspiciously light-bulb-looking sun to an ominous tower. They're considered a messiah to this world. A messiah sent from you, the player. That's right, folks. If you want to play your power god fantasy, this game might be your cup of tea, because the game data mines your name and puts you in the role of God. This is the first, most interesting aspect of the meta story. Nico's the only character who can directly communicate with you and will often ask for your input or advice. Throughout this adventure, you'll accompany them as they explore and point them in the right direction when solving puzzles. That, mixed with multiple NPCs using her name with godlike reverence, makes the link between the game and the player uniquely personal, even when compared to other equally meta games. Of course, the meta aspect applies to the gameplay as well. There are plenty of puzzles that use your computer's interface. Sometimes it's as simple as a password being on a text file in your documents folder, but many will definitely make you scratch your head and think, how exactly did they do that? Like, who said that you could change my wallpaper, OneShot? Don't you need permissions for that? And this puzzle right here, oh boy. I won't even spoil this one. When I realized what I needed to do, it blew my mind. I felt like a child watching his uncle perform close-up magic for the first time. It was crazy. There's also other more traditional puzzles as well. The opening actually does a really good job telling you what kind of puzzles you'll deal with throughout the game, mostly finding items around while exploring and combining them together to break whatever roadblocks are in your path. It teaches you this in the opening room that I took an embarrassing amount of time to complete. I found these to be really fun, which is saying something because I don't usually like systems where combining items is the focus. Sometimes the game gives you information early, which led to some confusion for me. Like, I got some code from this spooky computer and I thought it had to do with the lights in the buildings. It was actually an access code for the elevator that I hadn't even opened yet. Frankly though, that was just me being over-analytical. Sometimes in exploration games I tend to get lost without a map, but that was hardly a problem here. Even though it can be kinda hard to tell where some screen transitions are, and some of the areas in the barrens are kinda samey, I was only ever stuck exploring like once, and honestly that was just me being an idiot. As for the story, it picks up right after you leave the initial area, which isn't too long if you aren't stupid, like me. You soon learn about your god status, but you also learn that this world is broken. The world has been without a sun for an indiscriminate amount of time, and it's the duty of both you and Nico to save the world, baby. The world is honestly where a lot of the story juice is pumped into. Every place is unique in not only how the people are suffering there from the slow decay of the world, but also how the people there adapt to the worsening conditions and continue to live their lives, even if it is still in darkness. It's honestly really inspiring sometimes, and the relationship between the world and the inhabitants is very key to how the story progresses. Even though most of the story focus is on the world, that doesn't mean that the characters didn't contract a case of good writing. It's terminal. Nico is a very sympathetic character. You really start to feel bad for this kid who was just thrown into this prophecy against their will. They just want to eat pancakes, you guys, give them a break. I also really enjoyed talking to pretty much every character in this game. It didn't matter if they were relatively important NPCs like the siblings Kelmus and Alula in the ruins or the lamplighter in the refuge. Even some small background characters like this writer, who's having an existential crisis about the fact that their writing's never going to get the recognition it deserves, because the illustrious and mysterious author would do it better. Jeez, what a heavy topic. Good thing we have this penguin here. Hello, penguin.
Hello.
Going back to heavy topics, it's no secret that this game leverages its meta nature to have some really emotionally impactful moments. The intimate and unique relationship between the player and the game really comes to a head at the end, and is done in a way more impactful way than any game with meta aspects has done before or even since. Even the more higher profile and popular games like Undertale and Doki Doki Literature Club kind of pale in comparison to OneShot in this aspect. Did you ever reconsider and doubt yourself when you were going back to get the best ending in Undertale? I doubt it. Did you ever second guess deleting Monika's character file in Doki Doki Literature Club? I hope not. But I reconsidered and doubted myself multiple times playing OneShot. That's something that no other game has made me feel in a long time. It's pretty well known what the climax of this game is at this point, but what you're fundamentally doing here is... There's a few extra things that really tie this game together for me. First of all, the art is just beautiful, especially the dream sequences where Nika's outside their village in a wheat field. The fact that these are the only screens in the game without the pixel art style really makes them seem more dreamlike and otherworldly. The sprite work that you'll be seeing throughout most of the playthrough is excellent as well, of course, especially the dialogue portraits. Nico is an extremely expressive character. The music is pretty top-notch as well. It's all very atmospheric, but I think that in turn it makes it all kind of blend together for me. Like, it's good, don't get me wrong. I have favorite tracks now that I've listened to the soundtrack on its own. But if you asked me to pick out a specific song right after I finished the game, I wouldn't be able to. I like the song that played during the dream sequences and the one during the... was really unique, so that one stood out, but that's about it. But as I mentioned, after listening to the soundtrack on its own, I think the song Library Stroll is probably my favorite. It definitely gives you that relaxing feelings that libraries tend to, especially when the world is inevitably going to perish. Pretty nice day, huh? ... is a close second. If only because I love elevator music and the scene that it plays during. I've kind of run out of things to say, which is weird because I felt like I haven't said enough. This game is, when you get down to it, more than a game. It's an experience. Yeah, that's cheesy as hell, but I'm being serious. It's really hard to articulate how I feel about this game because it's such a different experience compared to everything else I played, and also because of spoilers, I guess, but seriously. This is one of my new favorite games ever. It's not every day that I play a new game and say that immediately afterwards. This was the first game I've ever binged. I was that engrossed. But because of that, I feel like I've kind of rushed through the game, especially in the latter half, which I'm pretty upset about. When it comes to console this year, I'm definitely going to give it a second shot. I still highly recommend that you give this game a chance, and if you haven't yet for some reason, you should, because it's only $10. Just do it already! And while I didn't give myself enough time to digest the game, please, I beg of you, don't be stupid like me. Be sure to take your time when you do your own playthrough. Then again, how could you really blame me when... Uh-oh. That's not good. Oh, wait. What? What's... No, wait!